trust, and this is getting a bit technical, but we have to explain this. They own the property in a trust, and then people can buy units in the trust. Now this is all fine in theory, but in practice, if you want to release equity, it means that you have to transfer title to the trust first, and then people can buy units in the trust. Now nobody's going to do that because number one, that means that you don't own the property anymore. Secondly, it's a transfer, which means there is a stamp duty event, there is a capital gains event. Okay? So that entire structure is like a dead on arrival model. And then there is a bigger issue where property as an investment, any astute property investor will tell you, is interesting only because of leverage. I mean, property is the only asset where people can borrow 70, 80, 90%. I mean, within control, I think debt is a good thing if managed correctly, and it allows you to accelerate your earnings. But in the trust model, because the platform owners are responsible for the debt, they don't really leverage it as much that is possible. And also they use commercial type loan interest arrangement, which means the interest rates are higher, the LVRs are lower, which means that the full advantage which gearing can give you is not available. So investing in property directly is not the same as investing in fractional property today. So we have come up with new structures which actually allow you to own the property in your own name, take advantage of the first homeowners grants, stamp duty concessions, CGT exemptions, and all those benefits, and allow people to gain exposure to the capital gain experience by the property. I think that's a pretty big deal, and that is actually what solves the real problems faced in the property fractional space right now.
In those current projects, I think one thing I really like about that is you're staying true again to that blockchain narrative and passing on, the benefits of listing a property on a project on a platform like this to the actual person who's listing that platform, and allowing them the means to crowdfund and invest, set up this investment vehicle rather than say the company just posting and owning it all within a company. So that idea of decentralization being that future we want to aim for, and I think it's pretty clear to me that you guys are staying true to that ethos.
I mean, these existing platforms, they solve some of the problem, which is, okay, how do I invest in property with say $1,000 instead of having all the money I need up front? But the real we think the bigger problem that Konkrete is going to be able to address is when can I buy my own house?
Correct.
And if I'm a retiree, how do I get some cash out of my house without taking on another mortgage? And that's a far, I think, bigger problem, whilst allowing investors to participate in that, that ultimately these other platforms aren't addressing.
I mean, there are people, yes, it would be nice to invest with $100 in property, but nobody's staying up saying that, okay, I can't invest with $100 in property. People are staying up because, just like Sean said, they can't save enough for their deposit, or they cannot access the money which they need, even though they have built up wealth in their property. So those are the real problems, and that is ones which are worth tackling.
So really, just to define this mechanism for those at home, Konkrete is allowing a principal homeowner or one that would like to become one the ability to crowdfund that 20% or so that they need for the deposit, such that they can actually enter into this market and pick up a property without having to save that 6 or 7 years we were talking about to make that deposit. So they can actually get into this home and start to realize some of those benefits without having to necessarily put forward much of their own money.
I mean, we still would want people to put some savings as part of their home, but right now we have a completely broken system where people have to save for 8 years. I think that's problematic. We're definitely solving some of the problems over here.
I think that's important to clarify, that you're not trying to allow people to enter the market immediately and just get into a house. You are asking people still to save some money towards these things, but just allowing that barrier to entry to be lowered to not such a exuberant number of years before you can even think about getting that money together for a deposit.
Case in point is during good times, 10% might be enough, right? But then all of a sudden the banks say, you know what, we actually need 20%.
Yeah.
And that's where you can use Konkrete to get that.
These days in Melbourne, banks won't lend. They will require you to have at least 30% deposit if you want to buy apartments. So, and by just ensuring that your debt doesn't go beyond a certain limit, we actually make the whole property market a little bit more balanced, because having more equity actually means that you are not strangled by debt.
Yeah.
So we are actually helping people to reduce their debt.
And that's such a real problem with that increasingly aggressive banking wanting more and more from us essentially, and a lot of people struggling to financially support themselves, let alone be saving this money towards a deposit. So I think you've obviously created a really great platform that has a lot of potential benefits to especially people here in Australia where that housing crisis is so real.